Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to the News Bulletin at 8, brought to you by number one news provider, Eswatini TV. I am Nandumiso Vilagate alongside Zamanze Manze. First, let's take a look at today's headlines. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has launched the 2022-2023 roadmap, which focuses on infrastructure, job creation and service delivery. The Ministry of Communication and Technology says government is in the process of improving the infrastructure as companies from outside the kingdom have been engaged to ensure that all Eswatini have access to digital services. The Minister of Education and Training says schools will close for the third term on the 25th of March 2022. The news. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has launched the 2022-2023 roadmap, which focuses on infrastructure, job creation and service delivery, among other deliverables set by Cabinet. The Prime Minister was speaking at Eswatini Revenue Services at Eswatini when delivering the roadmap.
Our agenda was quite robust and included topics such as the budget, service delivery issues, healthcare, social support services, youth empowerment, job creation, food security, climate change, national security, the upcoming elections, Sibaya, and economic recovery, among others. Over the week, Cabinet took stock of the challenges that confronted us as a nation over the past year, including the COVID-19 pandemic and social unrest, whilst equally paying attention to the successes that we achieved during what was undoubtedly a trying year. We agreed that most of these issues require urgent attention. We were briefed about the preparations for the upcoming national elections taking place in 2023 and are excited about the program of action that the Elections and Boundaries Commission is putting in place to ensure that Eswatini turn up to the polling stations. We anticipate the success of our Sibaya National Dialogue. Government is currently working on the logistics of the dialogue. Budget allocation. Cabinet agreed that which calls for us as a nation to further tighten our belts. We will, however, strive for efficiencies within our limited resources.
The Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, Her Royal Highness Nkosatanas Kanyeso, says government is in the process of improving the infrastructure in the sector as companies from outside the kingdom have been engaged to ensure all Eswatini have access to digital services. The Minister was speaking at Eswatini Revenue Services at Eswatini when the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini launched government's 2022-2023 roadmap.
The first objective of the ministry is basically to roll out a nationwide broadband policy where we have as a ministry already identified an Asian company that seeks to roll out a 5G fiber optic network cable that goes throughout the country. This company is also bringing in a tier 4 data center. The current data center we have at the Science Park is a tier 3. And so they are bringing not only the new high-level data center, but they are bringing a nationwide coverage of internet that is going to bring high-speed connectivity, and that is going to be utilized by any of the available players, whether in the communication space or in any of the internet service providers or any such services in the country. We have identified an Israeli company. It's a government-to-government agreement that has been signed between the two states, Eswatini and Israel, to ensure that Eswatini's cybersecurity framework is comprehensive and that is one that is attractive even to investors worldwide. The cost of data is too high, and that is to say that we have a regulator, the Eswatini Communications Commission, which is an institution that seeks to regulate the industry and ensure that those prices are regulated accordingly, according to what the country can afford and regionally. So the regulator as well as the Competitions Commission, they are looking at bringing those costs down. However, it will not be easy because of the infrastructure that is in place. There are billions that go into the investment of technology in the kingdom, and somehow they do need a return on investment. So it becomes a capitalist versus a humanitarian debate. Do you allow the players to make their money back, or do you put emphasis on the citizens? Right.
Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini says there are 259 applications for the Reconstruction Fund, and these amount to 417 million emalangeni. Out of these applications, 106 have been approved. The fund was launched by His Majesty King Eswatini III in September last year.
At a time where the Kingdom of Eswatini was faced with unrest, with fires being the order of the night and businesses turning into ashes, His Majesty King Mswati III came with a solution. This was the establishment of a reconstruction fund that would assist businesses that suffered loss and damage during the unrest. The fund was launched by His Majesty the King on the 6th of September 2021. Its launch, close to 1 billion emalangeni was raised. Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini says there have been 259 applications to the fund so far.
To date, 259 applications amounting to 417 million have been received, and 106 of those have been approved, with 73 still being processed. About 153 are yet to be reviewed and assessed by the committee, and this amounts to approximately 380 million.
At its inception, the fund received 500 million emalangeni startup injection from government. Applications for this fund are submitted to the Eswatini Bank. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela with Nelsi Wendlangamandla.
And again, the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini says government is introducing a funeral cover for the elderly. He said this when delivering government's 2022-2023 roadmap.
The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini says government is introducing a funeral cover for the elderly.
Government is introducing a funeral cover for the elderly, logistics for which will be shared by the Deputy Prime Minister's office in due course. Government notes with appreciation the strides made by our health sector in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as other diseases such as TB and HIV/AIDS. However, we are concerned about the surge in malaria cases. Government is enhancing malaria prevention interventions. Government will also implement strategies to improve procurement processes and ensure that there is sufficient supply of drugs and food in hospitals, whilst also strengthening security. Government is aware of the challenges faced by education sector and is in the process of rehabilitating schools that were recently damaged. Government will continue to support the students decentralization of government services. There's general consensus about the need to decentralization of services to bring this closer to the people. This coming financial year, we project the creation of 9,055 jobs, new jobs, from new and expanding investments.
The Prime Minister says despite the budget constraints, sectors are given fair budget allocation. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ngamandla with Mbongwa Dube, Zulwini.
The Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, says schools will close for the third term on the 25th of March 2022. The minister says this will not affect the Form 5 classes as they will continue with their external examinations until the 31st of March 2022.
The Minister of Education and Training has announced school days for academic years 2021 and 2022. The Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, says the marking of external examinations and publicizing of results for the academic year 2021 will be completed by the end of March 2022 for junior certificate. The Minister continues to add that in the ending academic year 2021, examination for non-completing classes will be conducted by schools internally. She says in the year 2023, school days will be back to normal with instructional times categorized into the usual 3 times. She proceeded to state is March 25th, 2022. On the academic year 2022, the Minister says this year will comprise of 2 terms and the compressed curriculum will be used to cover all teaching and learning. Commencement of Term 1 for academic year 2022 is April 5th. The mid-term break will start from April 23rd to June 27, 2022. Resumption of classes will be June 28 and Term 1 will end on 2. The Minister says the second term will commence on September 7, 2022 and mid-term break will be on 27 to 31st of October 2022 and the resumption of classes will be November 1st, 2022 and the end of academic year 2022 will be December 22nd, 2022. The Minister continues to announce external examination for the academic year 2021. The Minister says grade 7 will start the examinations on February 28 to March 10, 2022. Form 3 will write their examinations starting from February 14 to March 7, 2022. While Form 5 will sit for their examination from the 1st of March to March 31st, 2022. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Babane.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, John Hlophe, says the ministry and tertiaries want to find a lasting solution over students' allowances. Hlophe, in a telephonic interview with Eswatini TV, says the delay in paying student assistant allowances is often caused by poor
Eswatini tertiary institutions. There are demonstrations over delayed student assistance allowances. These demonstrations normally disturb classes. The Minister of Labour and Social Security Principal Secretary, John Hlophe, says the ministry and the institutions are working around the clock to find a lasting solution.
Children, they want allowance. When they want allowance, it won't give them in time. Yeah, they will protest. But again, even with other colleges, they must be kept charged, and this must be prepared, sent to Treasury, before Treasury sent to the bank so that they can be paid. So again, it becomes longer because there are those who need to continue, there are those who need to be admitted. So at the end of the day, it takes time.
The Principal Secretary also issued an update on student assistance allowances and scholarship awards for 2021-2022. On student assistance allowances, Hlophe says disbursement is on course and will be paid by January 30, 2022. He says the allowances will cover the period from the beginning of the academic year 2021-2022 to date. However, he says payments will be expanded to ongoing students only, as the ministry resists to receive invoices from tertiary institutions to facilitate disbursement for the first-year students. On scholarship awards for academic year 2021-2022, Hlophe says student study loan awards for the current academic year have been conducted. He informs all students and prospective applicants that no further award of scholarships for the academic year will be made for local institutions. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Mbabane.
Eswatini submitted an estimate of 75 billion emalangeni to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change for Climate Action under the nationally determined contributions last year. This has been said by the program coordinator at Eswatini Meteorological Services Ketsiwe Building Workshop at Hilton Garden Inn for enhanced transparency meant to determine how the climate action issues raised will be achieved.
Eswatini, like most countries around the world, submitted the Action on Climate Change nationally determined contributions to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Different stakeholders met at Hilton Garden Inn in Mbabane to determine the steps needed for the submitted climate actions to be a reality.
So what we have submitted basically under the national determined contribution as a country to the UNFCCC is what we call a climate action plan for Eswatini. And in that climate action plan, we have outlined what are the key greenhouse gas emission sectors that we see in the country, and this is talking to So we have outlined and presented our emission profile, and then beyond that we have identified mitigation strategies on how to reduce those emissions in the different sectors. When we look at our NDC, we have estimated the cost to be around $5 billion that we...
Khumalo says Eswatini will work with different partners to ensure that it gets the funds to achieve the climate change. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla with Mbongwa Dube, Mbabane.
Manzini Regional Administrator Chief Gija has applauded government for the swift action in renovating a house belonging to Nomsa Babosa, who is disabled. He thanked government when visiting the homestead of Babosa to check progress on the renovations.
The house that Nomsa Babosa had been using was in a bad state. At some point he had to share it for some days with a black mamba, which got through some cracks on the wall. Luckily, it was killed before harming the 43-year-old. The renovation of the house is conducted by the National Disaster Management Agency, which is under the Deputy Prime Minister's office, expected to cost 85,000 emalangeni. Manzini Regional Administrator Chief Gija says his office have been donating food parcels to Babosa.
Sashashiya lokuncane nje kanje zinovela sola isikahle lendlu yakhe. Iminyango ide mafasitelo afa onke mafasitelo. Leminye iminyango lendla bambeka la kwela lahlala kuyo. Ineminyango lo khansi nje awusasebenzi ungale ngemuva. Wavalwa ngamathayela. Kungena tinyoka nje ahlale nato bangani bakhe ngile tinyoka. Kungena yini nemalilwane konke. Sibona umselo omhlonga nje nyalo lo sifunise uhulumende indlu yonke seyiyalungiswa yonke ifaka iminyango lemisha itafana nelivranda nasetulu beyinesa uhulumende ulethe amathala lamasha umakhela nje iya revamp ibela iba as good as new.
Nomsa Babosa could not hold back tears when she thanked government for building a proper structure. Her mother, Maina Khumalo, also applauds government for bailing out her daughter.
Siyakholelwa ukuthi lo ingeke ikhohlwe ngithi ayikhohlwa ngisho ngusimakathe liqobo lwakhe ngoba besokufanele ukuthi afe lo xhwalile abulawe ngilendlu ngoba sehlule ukuthi simsitangane beyitamgcoba vele nje kunengilo inkinga talendlu leseyinhle nje nyalo ibe yinhle emva kokube kufika umphane nkosi lalela.
The renovations are expected to be completed on Sunday as roofing has been completed. The RA emphasizes that his office will make sure that the house will be used by Babos, not any other person. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Egunvini.
Two lovers accused of having a hand in the theft of copper have filed an urgent application, praying that the court reduces their bail. The accused persons are Banile Nkambule and Cepsile Ngobe, who allegedly stole copper valued at over 131,000 malangeni. The accused persons say the magistrate court's bail was on the high side.
Two lovers, Banele Nkambule and Cepsile Ngobe, were arrested for the alleged theft of copper valued at over 131,000 malangeni. They were arrested with two other suspects in the alleged crime that happened at Pondo in Malkens. The accused persons have submitted to the court that they did not commit the offense. The four accused persons first appeared before the magistrate's court, where they were granted 15,000 bail, which they had to pay in cash. When they applied for a reduction of the bail amount and the balance to be surety, they were advised to approach the High Court. In his current court application, Nkambule told the court that the bail was on the high side while he was unemployed. He told the court that he suffered from heart failure problems and continued incarceration will worsen his condition. Nkambule submitted to the court that his girlfriend and him got a lift from their co-accused by the police. The other two accused persons in this matter, Abuhle Caleb Johnson and Sabelo Dludlu. They also filed their own bail reduction application, which was granted by the High Court. They were ordered to pay 4,000 malangeni cash and provide surety worth 11,000 malangeni. The matter was before Judge John Makakula. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, High Court.
Welcome back. You're still watching Eswatini TV, and for your sports news tonight, the president of the Football Association, Peter Smelane, has thanked Swazi Track Company for their continued support of the Lubombo football even in these difficult times. Melane was speaking during the launch of the new season, sponsored to the tune of 61,000 malangeni.
Swazi Track Company is still faithfully supporting football in the Lubombo region. They have announced a new sponsorship package of 61,000 emalangeni for this season, which is an increase of 5,000 emalangeni from 56,000 last year. During the launch, the president of the Eswatini Football Association, Peter Smelane, thanked the company for staying with the Lubombo football even during these trying times.
abetawubaleka siyasibona simo se-COVID ukuthi sisebenjani, but-ke usihloniphile wachubeka wasikhumbula etikhathini letimateni. So siyabonga Swazi Track, we are proud of you.
Speaking on behalf of Swazi Track, Tulan Matonsi says their dream is to see the region producing more quality players who are capable of playing in other countries.
Siyabonga kakhulu Swazi Track. Sithemba ukuthi sponsor sethu bakhipha abadlali bakhiphele ngaphandle babe badlala overseas noma badlala eSouth Africa bathole mhlawumbe amaholo langcono. Ngiloko kakhulu ngosiyabonga sponsor. Sijabule kakhulu kuba part of Lubombo Football League nokufaka ngesandla kakhulu. Sibonga kakhulu ngosiyabonga kakhulu.
The company also sponsored a knockout tournament to the tune of 17,000 malangeni, where a draw was immediately conducted. The league will kickstart this coming weekend. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Pratizwa Msibi. Kalanga, stay.
That is all we had for tonight, but before we wrap up, let us take a recap of today's headlines. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has launched the 2022-2023 roadmap, which focuses on infrastructure, job creation and service delivery. The Minister of Information, Communication and Technology says government is in the process of improving the infrastructure as companies from outside the kingdom have been engaged to ensure that all eMaswati have access to digital services. The Minister of Education and Training says schools will close for the third term on the 25th of March 2022. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin tonight. Up next is the weather forecast for selected towns. Good night, Eswatini.